It's time for
Alright, scholars, for this lesson, all you're going to need is a notebook, something to write with, and the book that you're working on. Today, we are going to continue working in the stories Julian tells. Today's lesson, we are learning how to keep track of characters, and one way that we can keep track of characters is that we can focus on what they do and what they say and how that teaches us more about them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn to a blank page in my notebook, and as we are reading, I'm going to keep track of what my character does and says, and I'm going to think to myself, what is this teaching me about them? Because this is the stories Julian tells, I'm going to focus on Julian. So in my notebook, I might write character Julian. And I might have a section for what he says, and then what I learned, and what he does, what I learned. By focusing on the actions of the characters, I can learn more about them. Sometimes the author isn't just going to go out and tell you, oh, this character is strong, this character is a good character, this character is shy, this character is a bad character. Instead, they want us as the reader to infer about what type of character each character is based on what they say and what they do. So, if you haven't already listened to the first part of this story, I suggest you go back to the previous videos, part 1 and part 2, and listen to the story or read along with me, because today I'm just showing you the strategy and I'm going off of the understanding that we already kind of know the book. It is also super important when you are reading books that you read a chapter more than once, because my rule is always the first time you read it, it should be to enjoy it, but then the next time you read it, it should be to learn and to grow your knowledge as a reader. So let's get into the book. So right now we are focusing on the character of Julian, what he says or what he does, and what we can learn from it. Alright, so we're gonna start from when they just finish making the pudding and Dad decides to go to sleep. Alright, so we'll start from here. Alright, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so you all can see it with me. Alright, here we go, right from Huey. So, Huey and I guarded the pudding. Oh, it's a wonderful pudding, Huey said. With waves on top like the ocean, I said. I wonder how it tastes, Huey said. Leave the pudding alone, I said. So first I'm going to stop here. Huey is wondering how it tastes, and they already know that they need to guard it for their mom and not mess with the pudding, because Dad said, leave the pudding alone. So Julian is already saying, leave the pudding alone as soon as Huey starts to wonder. So I could write what he says and if I'm thinking what I'm learning about him is What is it? Julian follows directions. Like he was listening to his father. So one piece of evidence I can gather is like, oh, he follows directions. Let's keep reading though, because we don't just want to stop there. We want to continue gathering evidence about our characters based on what they say and do. If I just put my finger in there, I'll know how it tastes, Huey said. And he did it. You did it, I said. How does it taste? It tastes like a whole raft of lemons, he said. It tastes like a night on the sea. You've made a hole in the pudding, I said. But since you did it, I'll have a taste. And it tasted like a whole night of lemons. It tasted like floating at sea. So hold up. Let me see. But since you did it, I'll have a taste. So first we're like, oh, Julian follows directions. But then he says, but since you did it, so what am I now getting about Julian? Yeah, Julian follows directions, but also Julian is easily influenced, and that makes me go to what he does. Julian tries the pudding. So what I learned about Julian is that I could say he's a little mischievous. He's a little mischievous because he was following directions, but then he isn't following directions. So he's a little mischievous. I could even say he's like a little tricky. But let's see, maybe he'll fix it. Let me keep gathering evidence about the type of character Julian is. So we'll see, like, since you took more, I'll have more, I said. That was a bigger lick than I took, Huey said. I'm going to have more again. Whoops, I said. You put in your whole hand, Huey said. Uh-oh. I might add more. So he doesn't stop, though. So I could say, like, Julian does not stop. Instead, he takes even more. So now I could say that, you know, what I learned is Julian is greedy. And it's not even his. So I'm going to also add that Julian is irresponsible. As I continue reading, I'm going to continue filling out my chart. If I need more pages, I'll turn the page and add more. My goal is, at the end of the chapter, I should be able to say, in like a summary, what type of character Julian is, and I should be able to give evidence to support my reasoning. As you're gathering information about your characters and becoming experts, you want to be able to support your reasoning with evidence. You don't just want to give a theory, you actually want to be able to back it up. That's why it is super important as you're reading to collect information. So again, one strategy that you can use to collect information about your characters is to focus on what the character says and what the character does. If you don't want to collect it in a notebook, another way that you can collect information as you're reading is to use a post-it note. What that might look like is, instead of writing it in the notebook, you would write it here. So I could say, leave the pudding alone. J. follows directions, and I would just stick it right here with where I saw it. So these are two different ways that I can show that I'm collecting the information, and then at the end I can make my summary about the character. So this is just one strategy that you can use. Until next time.